Welcome to another episode of Brooks Equipment's FireTech Talk. Today we're talking with Dwayne Garriss, code consultant to FEMA. Dwayne, thanks so much for talking with us today.
My pleasure.
Dwayne, you're currently a code consultant to FEMA, but you also have extensive experience as a fire marshal. Can you tell us about your career?
Sure. So I studied architecture at the University of Tennessee and never really thought about being in the fire service side of it. But in the beginning, I came about some projects and ran across an individual who I had grown up with, and he was a fire marshal, and the state was looking for somebody to do some plan reviews, and he knew I had a background in architecture. And so he recommended I go down there and interview, and I did. And so I started out as a plans examiner. And in government, when you get asked to do some things, I was always taught to volunteer and do more each time. And so I grew and went from engineer to senior engineer, director engineering, and then next thing, assistant state fire marshal over building inspections and stuff. So as my career grew, I learned more and more, had to learn more and more. And ultimately, after 19 plus years of service, I was named state fire marshal. The first one in Georgia, actually, that never had fire service background. And so that was a little contentious at the time with the fire service. But if you look at the state law and many laws in other states, the state fire marshal often is dealing with before the fire occurs. So we're trying to do protection and build in safety into the buildings and things before the fire service has to get there.
Dwayne, can you explain how the State Fire Marshal's Office coordinates or builds relationships with fire protection companies?
Sure. So we had several groups. We had the Georgia Fire Sprinkler Association, but we also had Georgia Fire Safety Equipment dealers that were also involved with us. And with that group, when it first started, it's interesting how it got started. We had an incident where what we would call a rag and tagger, to be honest with you, was pressurizing a settling tank, of all things, and backfilling pressure into extinguishers. Well, one day he went to his friend's shop, got it pressurized, and it popped the valve and actually went through a two-story building, shot off like a rocket, and almost killed somebody. So we started looking at the industry and said, we might need to regulate this. So we did get some legislation passed immediately the next year to deal with regulating that industry. And the group that came up, which is now the Georgia Fire Safety Equipment dealers, we're made of small shops and big companies. And so it was a little contentious because the small companies thought the big companies were trying to put them out of business and stuff like that. And all we wanted to do was make the playing field level. So our relationship with them started off contentious. It probably ended up in a meeting with a senator and a group of about 250 angry industry individuals trying to answer questions that we sort of got through into, you're the one that's going to regulate this. And then now our relationship is fantastic. We work together. I was named an honorary member. I've been a member. I still go to their training. I'm actually a certified technician, kitchen technician, and a special hazard industry technician. So in dealing with that, I have to maintain training too. So I go to their training, and they keep saying, "Why are you here?" And it's like, I'm not going to take that test again. So, so it's been it started out as a hate-hate relationship, love-hate relationship, and now there are many states that have modeled Georgia in dealing with how to do licensures and stuff.
Can you explain how fire protection companies and enforcers like State Fire Marshal's Office coordinate together to improve life safety?
Sure. I mean, so we're all about use of the equipment, right, including inspection, testing, and maintenance of that equipment. And so in dealing with it, what we're trying to do is we're trying to achieve that the systems are in there correctly, are maintained correctly, and work properly. The technicians and the companies that service them, their whole goal is the same thing, is they want those systems to operate so that they protect what they're paid to protect. And so that's what the relationship is good about. And the other part, what we're trying to do is make sure that those individuals who don't do it properly, don't comply with the standards that are dealt with within Pt.1 and 96, 17, 17A, to make sure that they either learn it right or move on to doing something else. So we're just trying to, we all have the same goal in mind, the protection of life and property. So the technicians and service companies are there to maintain them and make sure they're installed properly, and we're there to make sure that's done. And it's the owner's responsibility also to make sure it's done.
You were also president of ICC. Can you tell us about that and your current involvement as a code consultant with FEMA?
Sure. So I was president of ICC in 2017, and that organization is an organization that develops model building and fire codes, mechanical and plumbing codes. And so in that area, it was more to help the organization continue to grow as a company, not just dealing with codes, but training, education, certification, stuff like that. At that time, before I became president, I was on one of the committees that wrote the testing for the technicians for kitchen restaurant systems and industrial systems. So now that I've retired being a state fire marshal and stuff, and doing a little fun work with the Fire Equipment Manufacturers Association, I still want to be involved. I still have the heart and care for people and everything. So I'm still involved with FEMA as their code consultant, but I'm involved in ICC in the fact that I'm on the Industry Advisory Committee, which industry gives advice, recommendations to the International Code Council's Board of Directors on things that they may see that might need to be worked on or developed, such as guides, some other standards, some things dealing with their code development process. In fact, this past month I was just elected as vice chair of that committee, so we look forward to continue to represent FEMA and the manufacturers themselves.
Can you walk us through the code development and adoption process?
Sure. So there's two major code organizations that write fire and building codes. That's the National Fire Protection Association and the International Code Council. Their process is a little different in both areas in the development, but it's basically still a consensus process. It has industry, it has users, producers, and enforcers in each one of those processes, and it's a balanced type committee as those go through. Anybody can submit code proposals and make modifications to them, at least suggested, and then they go through a process of code development. Now, with state adoption of those codes, such as the International Fire Code through the ICC, many states are on a 6-year cycle, so about every other edition, and the main reason that is it takes a while to pull in all the code changes that do occur, train the individuals on it, and allow that to soak in and get through the process. So most states are on about a 6-year cycle for adoption. So if, for example, if we were in a 2015, it'd be the 2021 code would be the next one. State of Georgia happens to be from 2012 to 2018, we're going to go to the 2024 edition. So it takes, and it's a little process too, because when the state's doing adoption, it also has to have public hearings to look at regulations that make those adoptions, because some states do tweak some things specifically for their region in those codes that are written on a national and international level.
Okay. Well, Dwayne, thank you so much for your time today. This concludes part 1 of our conversation with Dwayne Garriss, Code Consultant for FEMA. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and also to keep a lookout for part 2.